No. Great. And we record all of these videos and then they are available for you to come back and watch again on our YouTube channel. If you just go to YouTube and type in the Rec Innovation Lab, you can find us there. We'll also put the link in the chat. Welcome to everyone. Everyone is welcome to be here. These are open. We have a lot of students in here. I see a lot of students from SDSU, a lot of students from Miramar College and from the Rec Innovation Lab. And we're happy to have all of you. The focus of these is on entrepreneurial skills and developing the mindset and the skills necessary to be successful in the innovation ecosystem. So we have with a real powerhouse in the innovation ecosystem. He is well known in everybody in this community. And I'm just so grateful that he's here with us to talk a little bit and share his stories as an entrepreneur. And it's Jonah Peake. So welcome, Jonah.
Hey, thank you. You set the bar so high. Now I have to follow through. No, I'm hoping to. I've met so many awesome people through the rec so far, and I hope to meet more. I've been working with Liam and Aaron on the side, and I hope to meet other folks. So don't feel shy about reaching out. I'd love to kind of hear what you're building and what we get going. But before we really start, we have a poll coming up, but let's hold on that. What I was thinking is, why don't we jump into the chat and post the last thing you ordered from an on-demand marketplace? Could be anything. There's anything from dog walks to food to maybe someone cleaned your house. Could be anything. Just drop that in the chat. I'd be curious to see kind of what people are doing, and maybe we're going to discover a new marketplace that I hadn't heard of yet.
So the last thing we ordered on any market.
Any on-demand marketplace, you use your phone, you click some buttons, and an action took place. Something happened. Cannoli, I love it. Food, we got a lot of food. Animation, nice. Cake. Ooh, phone charger, I like that one. That's an important one. Clothing, books, food, books, love it. Although, are we talking like Amazon here for books? No, that's awesome. Costumes, Uber, just flat out Uber.
Did you hear the new? Did you hear the story about Amazon that's big right now, and their antitrust or anti entrepreneurship sort of bend that they've been taking, and I don't know. I heard a story earlier this morning about that. So.
Oh my gosh, I hadn't yet. I'm gonna go on a search
right
in a moment here. That's so funny. Mm-hmm. Cool. So that would be the that's the customer side. That's the demand side. I worked largely on the supply side. Let me start grabbing slides here, and then feel free to drop the poll and let's figure out if anybody has worked on the other side of this ecosystem. So take a peek here. I'm going to share my screen, and then we can see what that ends up looking like.
Okay, so which of the following types of demand marketplace apps have you worked for? Okay, if any. Mm-hmm.
Still waiting on a few answers. We got 23 answers so far. Maybe everybody's in. Oh, never mind.
I'm pretty curious, because one of my favorite parts of working, kind of in the early stages of the on-demand marketplace was so many cool people who had either variable schedules or were building their own businesses that said, hey man, I just drive dinners on weekends because I'm trying to fund my business. So I'm wondering, maybe I'm wrong here, but I'm wondering if there's a large percentage of people who are building their startups here and are might be doing a little bit of side hustle to fund that thing.
All right, here are the results. Most people have done none, 70%.
Whoa, okay, nice. We need to follow a poll of what they're doing to hustle on the side, but no, that's super interesting. Makes total sense. It's big, and I guess that shows you how big the space is. We worried about churn a little bit from our supply side a lot, but maybe the supply was a bit bigger than we realized. But let's dive in. Throw questions, unmute and jump in with questions if you have them. Throw them in the chat. If you do, we'll read them out.
Yeah, I did see that that there was some additional feedback there in the chat too. Upwork was one of them.
Nice, that's a good one.
And yeah, we'll monitor the chat the whole time. So
Perfect.
put your questions in there. We'll just shout them out if we see any question that needs to get answered. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. So we're talking about on-demand marketplaces, and let's just sort of jump to the next slide here. Aaron says you got to establish your credibility, top right. So that's me. I'm real.
Oh, you know what? I'm not seeing your slides.
Uh-oh. Let's make sure.
Oh, were you guys seeing them, Patrick Jacoby?
I am not. I can pull them up though.
No, hold on one sec. Let's just make sure I can share the screen properly. Let's do that. Maybe I made a mistake. How are we doing now?
Now you're good.
Oh gosh. Okay. Junior mistake. Okay. We still good?
We're good. We're good.
Let's do it. Okay. Go back to my joke. Yeah. So Aaron says establish credibility. I watched his talk on crypto. So here's a little credibility. I work for some on-demand tech companies. Maybe you've heard of a couple of these. If you haven't, Handy, home cleaning, on demand, Postmates, food, Lime, scooters. And so the first two, I think are the most relevant here. And we'll talk about that more specifically. Handy's a little bit simpler. Postmates gets increasingly more complex. And then Lime has an on-demand 1099 component, but it was a little bit more reserved towards chargers or juicers overnight. I'm happy to answer questions about any one of these companies. They're all relevant. But for Lime, it's going to be more the chargers here. So let's think about how these marketplaces are structured. And we'll start with just a few high-level notes. So essentially, these are 1099 marketplaces, and that we kind of interchange that for IC or independent contractor, basically meaning there's a tech component sitting in the middle of people who either want or are providing a service. So customer wants cleaning and Handy would connect them with cleaners. They don't do the work. They don't clean your house. They just help you find the person that can do that. And a little bit more generally, same with food. You want some food and a Postmates driver will kind of go on that journey for you. And I'll lay out that journey a little bit more later, but again, that's going to be a bit more on demand. The cleaning, you say, hey, I'd love it Friday. With food, you kind of want it immediately. And then something we won't really touch on a lot, and I'm not necessarily a lawyer here, but there's a lot of sort of current battles. There have been battles over time about the classification of these individuals who are working on the platforms, and I think it really depends on the lens you look through and the side that you're on, based on how you feel. We can answer some of these questions, and some of my language might shy that way, where you say onboarding instead of hiring, or you say teaching, or sort of you can't say teaching or training, things like that we might shy away from. So if the language is a little weird, that might be some habits and all the legal conversations that we went through. So let's talk about marketplaces from a company perspective. So why do they like them? What does a company want to operate this way? It's really fast to ramp up. With home cleaning or delivering food, you really just need to pass a background check, and then you're theoretically good to go, assuming your operations manager approves of kind of what they've seen. There's less rules around a person who may not be a good fit for the platform. So there's no, worry about laying someone off or someone being fired or anything like that. If you do something, that goes against the terms, if you do something illegal, if something goes horribly wrong, the company has the ability to sort of ramp you down, if you will, and pull you off the platform. And so, that's kind of a nice tool for a company if they are sort of having some issues. Operator freedom. If there's no work and there's no jobs going on, you're not paying someone to sort of sit around and hang and wait for work like you might at traditional cleaning business. And so, that's an advantage on the one hand, and we'll talk about why that's not an advantage on the other side. And tech does the scheduling. So having 100 home cleaners or a few thousand drivers who all want to log on and do some work, they can just do that when they see it getting busier. I don't have to make a schedule and say you 10 are on Friday. That is a blessing when you have cohorts like that. So you can just turn this on, you can ramp this up pretty quickly and build a cohort as a company. The disadvantages, though, is, as I mentioned earlier, you have no control or directive. You can't say, hey, Aaron, can you go do this job? Can you clean this house or deliver this sandwich? you kind of have to offer it up. And we see that in the second bullet. You can't train someone. You kind of have to sort of use customer examples. You have to say tips will be better when, or here's a job, are you interested in taking it? And so you really don't have a ton of control. What you have to do is incentivize that job to be completed or accepted in another way. That could be financial, that can be just, through freedom of schedule. There's a number of ways, and this balance tends to work pretty well if you have the right economics. But you have to be a little bit cautious about how you operate with your fleets or cohorts. Disadvantage, they work when they want. So that's obviously an advantage for the independent contractor. But if every single driver decides Friday night is the night to go to the concert, guess what? We don't have anyone to pick up the jobs that are coming through, and that's a problem. So there's not much we can do about that because we can't schedule people. And then because it's so easy to ramp up, you can ramp up in 30 minutes. Well, that means it's super competitive, and maybe Uber's running a promo and I have to compete against that, or maybe I'm just a little bit more comfortable walking dogs. But you'll find that people who, are really loving food delivery, they like to park their car and get out. They don't want to sit and do all the driving, or maybe they're just not dog people. So you do have your groups of people that fit really well. So, this is what a company is kind of looking at from a high level. And this may not be an all-encompassing list, but this is kind of a couple things to look at. Kind of does flip, and you'll see some similarities here, which is good because that's why they work. But what if I'm an independent contractor? I'm someone who wants to earn some money on the side. Maybe I'm planning for a vacation, or I want to buy some gifts around the holidays. All these are good examples. You can ramp up quick. You can operate whenever the heck you want, and maybe you have an odd schedule and you'd like to fit something in. Jacoby, is there a question?
Yeah, we have a question. It says, Louis asked, do you have any pointers, resources, specialists, consultants that can help on setting up wording and legal in order to not make mistakes with contractor versus employee regulations on new 1099 marketplace?
Great question. There are a million people out there. I think Uber's been sued about 5 or 10 times. Don't quote me. Postmates a number of times. It's actually pretty easy to find some information. But think about from a high level, and again, asterisk, not a lawyer. Are you asking someone to do something, or are you offering them something? And they make the choice. So an example here, just to kind of answer your question a little bit more basically, and do it as much reading as you can. And I'm sure there's firms that will specialize in this. But an example is driver comes in smelling like cigarettes and is delivering food. And I might say, hey, Jerry, you can't be delivering food smelling like that. Now that's a directive, that's an employee relationship. But what I might say is, hey, customers tend to tip better when they feel like their items are arriving more pristine, and sometimes the aroma of this might impact how they tip you. So see, I'm kind of putting a little bit of space in there, and you just got to be a little bit more cautious about how you operate, with an independent contractor. But definitely go down the rabbit hole of the legal terminology, and just make sure that it doesn't feel like you're directing someone to do something and you're not scheduling them to do something. They are basically accepting these jobs on a contract by contract basis. Hope that was helpful. Feel free to follow up if you have more questions, and we can connect Wednesday too. So we're talking about the driver or the operator on the platform. So there's some disadvantages, obviously. So it's not perfect. Consistency can change. If I only want to work 2 to 4 p.m. and I'm delivering food, you're really not going to be that busy. You're just going to be somewhat competitive. You do use your own resources. You don't get a company car in many of these cases. Companies might change the rules on you. They might say, hey, I want to get a little more efficient. I need to increase my numbers, and they might change the payouts. This happened a couple of times with us when we were surprised by a line out the door, and that's when we found out that the pricing had been changed. And you have to kind of go through those moments live, and it teaches you to think on your feet. But again, these can change based on how the company is trying to survive. And again, if they go out of business, there's no jobs for anybody. And so, those are sort of tricky ways to operate, but it does happen. Customers can impact your access. So if you come onto this platform and you haven't delivered food a ton, or maybe you haven't done a lot of service related jobs, you could come out of the gate and just run into some challenging situations. That leaves you a couple poor reviews, and that might be something that makes it hard to stay on the platform. Not common, but can happen. And then there's no traditional benefits. So if that's something that you need, and that's a whole nother talk, honestly, about why benefits are tied to the workplace. Anyways, that's something that you don't really get. Cool. So let's talk about Handy. This is a nice one. It's somewhat simple. I oversaw San Diego and Las Vegas, launched Las Vegas, nice little banner there. And so we started from zero, which is interesting. So when you start from zero, what you got to do is you got to build your supply side. There's no jobs. And so you have to think about it like, how do I get some people on there that aren't going to get any work? And you could do that a couple of ways. We didn't pay in advance, but what we did was we wanted to get enough people that were hungry to try something new. And you can kind of see they're tech savvy. They see that the old way is not really for them. They think the old way is maybe not so good. They're putting flyers at the grocery store and they're not really seeing the return there, or they just don't want to run the whole business side of sort of running a cleaning company in this example. And so, you start to get a good amount of interest, but you got to get them on the platform first. So in this case, we're getting applications in, and this is what I was doing years and years ago, is screening a home cleaner. So giving them a call, asking them how they would do certain tasks. And it's actually pretty tricky to figure out if someone knows what they're doing, although you do figure out some tricks over time. A good one was to ask someone how they would order cleaning of 4 rooms. You can see kitchen, bed, bath, and then living room, for example, and why they pick that order. People who know what they're talking about can really answer that question quickly and efficiently. You really go top to bottom, bring dust from the top to bottom. You probably don't want to do the customer's dishes after you've just scrubbed the toilet. So some basic stuff you kind of notice over time when you're recognizing patterns. And then oddly enough, I'd bring them in. But we didn't have an office at the time, so I would bring them into my house, and we would all sit around my TV. It was kind of weird, and then we would get a vibe of the people. I would by myself, and then I would ask them to do a test clean, and I would kind of hide things around the house and mess things up. And it was funny. My wife loved it because we had the house cleaned 5 times a week for months on end. So at times it was almost impossible to find anything that was not clean. But that was something we tried in the beginning. Turns out you can clean for 15 minutes pretty convincingly, but that's not really what the customer is after. We'd run a basic background check. You're obviously you're standing in someone's house, and you have to be cleared. And now you have access to the platform. You can come on and accept jobs. So this is great. We've got a supply side. Vegas started at 0. So now we had 10 cleaners. We'd fly out and we would onboard them and talk about the app and how it's going to make them all this money. So now we need some jobs. So, you can run some promos, but run some promos, kind of get people excited for it. Typically there's some Groupon deals that we would get started, stuff that, kind of discounted it and get people used to it. What's nice about cleaning in this example is once someone booked a job, it's pretty easy to upsell them to do a recurring service. With cleaning, that's something that's fairly common, but this side was pretty easy. And the reason why we called this sort of a slower, demand side was that when someone booked a job, they weren't booking it for right now. It was very rare that it would be post-party or we need it immediately. It would be posted later in time. It would be offered up, hey, who wants this job? If someone accepted, I was excited, and hopefully the job went really well. And so what we're essentially doing is building up the sort of demand side so that the supply side could come in and start to match, complete the jobs, and kind of complete this pie here. So looking at what I could control and couldn't control, we have a couple of challenges here. I couldn't send people to jobs. But what I could do is I could find people that I knew would be good, or at least thought I would be good. I could understand the questions I was asking them to see if I was getting, the correct people or people who knew what they were doing. And I could understand and control how large my supply was. If it was too small, I could bring people on rather quickly, like we were saying earlier. If it was too big, I could trim down some lower rated people and kind of keep that balance so that customers who were ordering were getting a good experience. But what I couldn't control was how many jobs got booked. Say there was a Groupon promotion, which came through somewhat frequently. Customers' expectations. So if we're looking at Las Vegas, this is funny. People misunderstood what a $35 2-hour cleaning was actually capable of, and maybe hadn't cleaned their houses in 4 years. And so they were expecting a pristine house. And we're getting these photos from these poor workers saying, hey, there's no way I can't even get through the kitchen at this time. So the expectations weren't correct. And that was something I couldn't control. And I can't control if all the jobs get accepted. Again, they're on the marketplace. I just have to try to balance the supply and demand as best as I possibly can. So it's important to start thinking about your metrics. Liam and I talk about this a lot. But there's a lot of different metrics along the way, and I'll list a number of them. And some of these are high level, some will go a little bit deeper, but start to think about, if you are building your marketplace, to the person who asked the question earlier, what are your top 2 or 3 that move your business the most? And how do you start to focus on that? And then once you get a handle on that, then from there, what other levers can I start to pull to sort of adjust the supply and the demand that's going on, to then inch myself closer to jobs being completed, and jobs being completed at an extremely high level. So we're looking at job growth. How many jobs are coming in? Are they getting accepted? And this is starting to tell us if we have the right ratio of supply and demand. Are they getting accepted at enough of a rate where the people I've brought on are making money? So they want to stick around, they want to stay on the job, and they want to keep operating. Jobs are getting completed. So customers who are ordering are getting the job completed and fulfilled. Lost jobs is a big one. So this is one that I would advise a lot of people thinking about in the beginning. Jobs that got booked but didn't get filled. Is there, what's going on behind that equation? Is it a time of day? Does every single person in San Diego want cleaning on Saturday, which seems to be pretty true, especially with the new app-based system that sends someone to your house. You want to be home for it. Or is there something else that you can start to think about? So track your jobs that you're getting lost, and keep an eye out for which way is it moving or trending. Cleaner churn. So this is a big one. As soon as I try to match my supply to all the jobs coming in, well, then people are going to start earning less, and they're going to churn off the platform. And so I have to kind of do this nice little dance, or juggle, if you will. And I'll just throw this nice emoji in the middle, of all of these things, realizing that as one goes up, the other's going to go down. And so what I'm kind of doing is I'm massaging my way into sort of the ideal scenario where I have the smallest amount of lost jobs, the highest star rating average, my churn is extremely low, and my job growth is just going in the right direction. So as you can see, there's lots of different moving parts here when you're working in these businesses, and again, very little control. So as you see, when jobs are starting to increase, great marketing effort, the jobs per cleaner goes up, they're earning a lot more money, but they're getting a little bit busier because my supply is stagnant, and we're losing jobs. So customers are not getting fulfilled. So the available cleaners are decreasing because everybody's booked up and we can't all do jobs at the same time. So what we have to do is we bring in a large cohort of cleaners. I need to start to match marketing efforts. My accepted jobs goes up, my completed jobs goes up. So this is great. HQ's happy, we're doing more work. But as you can see, the jobs for cleaners starting to decrease. Their earnings are going down. And along with a positive are lost jobs. So we're not losing work, but we're losing cleaners now. And so the balance is a little bit off in a different way. And so I have to start to think about, what do I do next? So I have too much supply. So I could do a couple of things. I'm going to start to churn my cleaners, or maybe this is when I start to think about the quality within my cohort. Maybe some aren't necessarily up to the quality that we were hoping for. And so we can kind of start to think about it that way. But this is sort of the life of the juggle, right? You can't catch them all, but you certainly can try. So find a few that are at the very, very top that you really want to go after, and sort of nail those down, learn those as best you can, and then start to add in lost jobs on Thursday morning when it rains, those very specific metrics, but see if you can knock out the big ones, like how healthy is my funnel? In this case of Handy, do I have enough people working? Are they making enough money? Are customers happy? And are they getting their jobs fulfilled? So, you'll add more metrics over time, but really start, what are the first few, and don't necessarily overwhelm yourself with getting everything perfect, but try to set some nice benchmarks, try to look at what you can control, what levers you can pull, and how can you really keep your cohorts happy and your customers happy too. Cool, let's pause for questions.
All right, so questions from the audience.
Yeah, feel free to shout them out or jump in.
I've got a question before anybody said anything. We can get to those in a second. But with Prop 22 being overturned recently, do you have any insights on how that's going to look for the independent contractors?
Remind me, Prop 22. I'm familiar with AB 5.
I think that's it's the one in California that defines the workers for these apps as independent contractors, and as of next year, I think they have to be actual employees. I could be
Sorry,
wrong.
I would Google 22. 22 is same-sex marriage. I think AB 5 is the one. Sorry, didn't call you out. AB 5, yes. So AB 5 is really interesting. It's already impacting how things are operating. You see that at the airport now. It costs $50 or $60 to get home. The contractors are changing. AB 5 is a tricky one, in my opinion. And again, not a lawyer, politician. AB 5 is really, really good for someone who wants to drive for Uber or do deliveries full time. They do want to do nothing else, and that is their job. So essentially, they are, an employed worker. What AB 5, and so if it stayed active, that person would earn more money, be required to be paid a higher level, and would have to stay on online, being paid while not working. So what that ends up doing is that pushes out some of the more hobbyists, and maybe that's the wrong word, but think about the last time you had an Uber ride, or from a grandmother or grandfather who's trying to get out there and be busy and just wants to work for 5 hours a week and just stay out there. That cohort of people, or that group of people, gets harmed by AB 5, and they kind of get pushed to the side, because really at the end of the day, for an Uber, a Lyft, a Postmates, or the list goes on, you need as many people online working as possible. The more people being busier on your platforms, the better for you. It's in one lens, you want everybody to be able to log in, and you want everybody to be able to do jobs whenever the hell they want. But behind the scenes, you really just want every job done, and you want the most active people just doing as much work as humanly possible. So it's a bit complicated. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, totally.
Hey, Jonah, I had a question, but that changed my mind. So what do you think the new peer-to-peer tax, $600 or more now is taxed? And so for like I know of a steel marketplace named Felix, right? That's not going to affect them because they're basically business to consumer. But these consumer to consumer like U-Ship, right? Where you're paying somebody who is a consumer to another consumer. Do you think it's going to affect those massively now that they're going to be getting taxed 15% on any purchase 600 or more?
Yeah, I mean, I would have to imagine it's going to change how you think about what you're doing and what you're earning. Because if you're earning, below a threshold, you might just not really, it may not matter. But if you're right around that threshold, it might not be worth it. Or you might have to start to think about where you fall in that ecosystem. I don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah, that's tough. I was thinking about it because obviously we get a marketplace. So as the big earners get on there.
Well, the joke is that everybody is now going to start pricing things at $5.99, right. So you don't have to think about it, but it will change, no doubt. One more, or we can keep cruising.
Oh, Jonah.
Yeah.
So when it comes to safety for some of these jobs, like how safe can some of these jobs be, considering that you can walk into someone's house? Because I know with WAG, like you can literally get a key to someone's house, walk in their house, get their dog, and then walk their dog while no one's at the house.
Yeah, no, great question. So there are different levels of background checks for different people. There's industries that have sprung up specifically around background checks. What we were saying is, typically, granted you passed a check, because the entire system is GPS tracked and the whole job has can be seen via phone or by company behind the scenes, like super mode or God mode or whatever you call it. There's basically eyes on you at all times. Not to mention, you've got some of your payment methods attached if you're getting paid out, which are largely through financial institution, or if I'm a customer and I'm paying with my own cards. There's there's a, some tracking there. So I think in theory, it's a lot scarier. But the more time and the more odds you have of being inside someone's home, the more stringent the background check is. So for example, Handy took multiple days to pass, whereas Postmates took, minutes, because you're really going to someone's door, and you just need to make sure that someone doesn't have some of the basic infractions there. But, it's really challenging. It's hard to know the true scale and what kind of really gets to the top. But it feels like that would be lower on the list of risks compared to some of the other things that we could do.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. So that was a nice, easy one. Someone books a cleaning, they just toss it on a sheet, and hopefully in 3 or 4 days, someone picks it up and takes care of it. But here's the thing. When you order food, and you're not really ordering it for next Friday, or at least I don't plan ahead that well. And so people want what they want now, and they don't have time to wait. So we really want to try to hit this 60-minute window. And we've added another party to this. We've added the restaurant. So this marketplace is a little bit more complex because there's actually stops, or multiple stops, and multiple interactions along the way. So this marketplace gets a little bit more challenging. So let's take a look here and kind of just help you understand how complex it was. And there's actually kind of a fun story before I'll tell it after this. So essentially, we've got our customer, and they are dreaming of ramen. It's raining out in San Diego, and that's what we do. So the customer places an order. Now, from their mind, that's it. It's nice and simple. We're just waiting for the delivery to happen. But what ends up happening behind the scenes is we now need to figure out where it's going. So it either gets dispatched to get called in, so it goes to a call center somewhere. And so really the app at early days was just a note-taking app, just said, hey, customer wants ramen, so let's figure that out. Hopefully in the future we can, and we got there partly through my time there, you send it directly to the restaurant, and so there's actually a tablet there. But what can happen too is if the place is just so busy, you can't get a hold of them, maybe they don't have a tablet, the call-in team is put on hold, so we just dispatch a driver there. So they just drive an order in person. But that's hopefully a minimum, but that can happen. But let's just say the first two scenarios happen. Now we dispatch a driver when a certain amount of time has passed, so we can try to time that thing perfectly right. They grab the order and drive it on over, and now it's delivered to our friend here who is thinking they've had the best experience ever. Now, the reason I want to tell the story at a little bit more of a high level is a lot of times, people don't realize how, just how much legwork goes in behind the scenes on some of these operations. And what we kind of think is, oh man, my startup is duct taped together, and it's we're never going to be as pristine as some of these brands, these businesses. We click a couple buttons and things happen. But if you look back, kind of prior to the more current innovations, we had a person taking some notes on their phone, i.e. the early stage app. We had a call center of people calling it a takeout order, and the name that was the dispatched driver. And so the restaurant just sort of thought that a person was calling in, an order for their husband, wife, or friend. And then the driver would just have, gift cards, just simple gift cards, $100 or whatever. And they would just go and pay for it with the gift card. And the customer thought this was the best thing that's ever happened. But really behind the scenes are a lot of different steps taped together. So it got more advanced over time, and it got significantly better. But the point is, it's a fast interaction. It was built in a very, very sort of clunky way at first, and then you innovated pieces as you went. And so, you might be thinking, hey, I'm taped together now, and maybe you are, but in many ways, Amazon feels that way too if you look on the inside. So I like to tell that story for that reason. I'm happy to dig in deeper there. But so now, instead of saying, dang, I got a lot of jobs on Saturday to fill, like I did with home cleaning, now we're live. We are seeing live orders come in. We'll see dashboards like this on the right in the early days. And this is where you start to get anxiety. You're like, oh gosh, I have 100 drivers, 85 orders going on, 15 orders are coming in live, and 5 have failed, meaning a customer has not found a driver. And so you're now stressed trying to figure out, how do you balance the supply and demand? And how do we know, how are we going to make sure that every customer is happy and doesn't drift over to the competing platforms? So let's look at a couple of our metrics. We're not totally blind here. This isn't, we're not just hoping that things go well. We start to look at some historic volume, what days are busy. What's our 7-day active fleet like? Can we assume we're going to have a certain level of drivers online based on last week, last month, etc.? Are drivers doing more than one job? If every driver is doing 10 jobs, that's kind of aggressive from the stats that we found. So we want to try to encourage people to come online at that point. Failed attempts, as we pointed out in the chart on the right, and then what kind of demand do we see upcoming in the next couple of days? So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday through the weekend. Those are things that we can start to think about in advance. So it is an on-demand action. It is a three-sided marketplace, but we do have a little bit of time and planning. And again, hard to get it perfect, but we certainly try our best. But to kind of go deeper on the patterns, we know that it's always busy lunch and dinner. We know Friday, Saturday, Sunday are always busy. If we look at the weather, we know it's rain's going to mean increase in orders. Holidays are always busy, and sporting events coming up. And find me sometime. I'll tell you the story about how I called all 50 McDonald's in San Diego to see if they're open on Thanksgiving. It was really brutal. They are open, but no one orders from them because no one wants McDonald's on Thanksgiving. They're all with their families. Notoriously really bad day for orders. Cool. So we talked about a lot of this. We said, hey, like we can't tell people to do things. We can't assign jobs. So what can we do? How do we encourage people to log on and make some more money? And this strategy is of paying drivers sort of a minimum or extra is really best used for when you're launching a market. You really don't want to set the sort of standard of you will always earn this amount, because again, your drivers will ultimately churn once they realize that that's not the standard. But this is a good way to cushion your supply for when you start to fire some demand at it, so customers are seeing a good experience, drivers are earning some money, and they can continue. Or you can run promos that say something to the effect of, complete this many jobs and you'll get a bonus per job completed. These are great promos to kind of get people up and over certain numbers. Let's just say all your drivers are completing 4 jobs and you really want people to hit that 5th. You can set promo thresholds there. But again, the risks, if you hype up a promo and the orders aren't there, well, the drivers aren't going to listen to you the next time. Boy who cries wolf. Drivers could lose trust, like I was saying. You're building a habit where they say, I'm only going to come on when it's expensive. And accounting can be tough if you're now paying people $1.50 per job. And beware of that. That can be pretty clunky.
Oh, Jonah, someone said early on, were processes in place to address failed attempts to keep customers happy?
Yes. In some cases, we would manually reach out to drivers to say, hey, log on, it's super busy. Other things that we can do, this is a fantastic question, is you can turn on what's called surge pricing. So surge pricing encourages drivers to come online and discourages customers from operating or sort of following through on an order at the same time. We've all kind of experienced this on Halloween or New Year's. But yeah, so basically when you're seeing above average failed attempts, and there's always some, we have to be comfortable with a certain threshold, because there's chances that someone's ordering and there's no one in the zone that they're ordering from. There's chance that every single driver is on an order currently. And so you have to bake in a certain amount. What you don't want to see is it's going from 2% to 3% to 5%, and now it's soaring. That was when we really started to get worried. And really, at the end of the day, the best solution to all this is get more drivers. So yes, on demand, it's extremely hard to pull that lever, because again, you can't assign jobs and call people and tell them to come into work. But we have to do is monitor it over time and make sure it's trending in the right direction, which is down to near zero, but it's very tough to get there. Cool. So yeah, what we were kind of just talking about here, just bring on a whole ton of drivers, get people excited about the platform. But remember, it's expensive to run ads, expensive to get people through the funnels, and your quality will suffer. People haven't figured out the app yet, and your good drivers or your good workers might the good workers basically might drop off. And that's the last thing you want. You don't want your people who understand the city, the maps, the navigation, the college campuses to disappear, because they're going to be providing the best experience. They understand how the tips work, and they understand how to make that money. The absolute best lever that you can pull, and I hope this addresses the question, share information. Just make sure that people know when they can earn the most, when they can be the busiest, when they should plan to be on your platform and not, doing something else. And that's through information. In the app, let them know of a promo, let them know of an upcoming holiday weekend, remind people of the 4th of July and how earning money is way cooler than, hanging out with your friends. I don't necessarily agree, but that's, there's that potential. And then, we use in-app messages, Facebook pages. I did manage a Facebook page for the San Diego City, and for all the drivers. It was cool to get some info, but the risk obviously there is people are not self-serve as well, and they're not gonna solve their own problems, which is ultimately the goal. The more time you spend solving small problems, the more systems you need to improve, is basically what we learned. Cool. And then so we need to get some customers online. So let's just quickly address that. And we were just talking, let's run a promo. Let's give some stuff away. Let's get more people online, start to build some buzz. And so we did a ton of sort of pizza promos, and we did a ton of these types of things. Oh, hold on, let's computer's dying here. Sweet. And the risk here, don't piss off your merchant partners. Don't send them too many orders. Don't send your drivers to places that are cash only. So screen your merchants and your partners and who they are, and just kind of make sure that they're prepared for the demand that they're going to see when they get 150 pizza by the slice order. So that can happen too. Let me just tell you one quick story, and we're about to the end, but this is about communication. And I'll stop that graphic here, but this is the story of how I basically crashed the entire Postmates driver system. We want to announce that a promo is coming up. We want to share a fun graphic, and I'm obsessed over finding cool stuff. And I found this really unbelievable pizza graphic with a cat eating the slice, and the whole thing was like, it was going wild. We would do some very light coding to get this into the driver's app so that they would get a pop-up and they would see what pizza promo is coming up. Problem is, when 50 other cities copy your code, it's not good code, and they put it into their driver's app, it basically takes down the whole driver system, and they ban pizza gifts from use at the company from that point on, because we basically took all the drivers offline and no one could get orders fulfilled. So kind of funny, felt bad about it, but yeah, took down the driver's app once upon a time. So that was not a good experience. So let's just go through a few points to wrap up. You typically want to have a very close balance between supply and demand, but I would say shy towards a slightly oversupplied side. You want customers who are coming in to be able to have their service fulfilled, and you want to make sure to have every job completed so that your customer doesn't lose faith and go to your competitor. But when you do that, just monitor your supply side churn, making sure that your customers keep having a good experience. But the last thing you want is a failed attempt. People just don't think that you can actually follow through. Pay really close attention to the hackers on your platform. And I don't mean people who are trying to break in. I just mean the people who figured out secrets of how to do the job better. They know certain places are really popular. They know places that are not popular, or they don't like, what areas they stay away from. And what ends up happening is they'll come in and they'll say, hey, like, you want to see something funny? Look at this horrible bug. And we didn't know about it. And we didn't know that they had to reset their phone at a certain point, and we didn't know that certain things would happen, and we couldn't relay that back to the developing team. So I would really say, pay attention to who's on your platform. Who are the top 10 users? Who's doing such a good job on your platform? They really could teach you a thing or two. And then use the platform. Order a ton of ramen, order a home cleaning, make sure the experience seems good as a customer. Work on the platform if you can. Go out there and deliver someone a sandwich, or teach a swim lesson, or whatever that might be. And just to reiterate, learn from the people on your platform. they do want to share information when they're having a good experience. They want to help and they want to share kind of what they've learned, what they've figured out, and they want to provide you with information to make their lives easier. When their lives are easier, they earn more money. And the last thing, know your metrics and what levers you can pull. But always keep fine tuning. You're never gonna be perfect, and you're never gonna make all of these problems go away. But what you can do is you can start to minimize your driver churn from 5% to 4%, and take your lost jobs from 3% to 2%, and really just start driving it in the correct direction through dedicated action. So I just hope this is a 5-star experience for everybody here. The best thing you can possibly do is just build a really good balanced marketplace where people love working on the marketplace and people love using it for the services. Makes your life a hell of a lot easier. To use cleaning as an example, it's a very difficult job, and booking cleaning through an app is great and all, but it doesn't make the scrubbing any easier. And so it's a lot harder to grow a company that way if it's tough to be the worker on the platform. But think about that if you can, and try to fine tune both sides of the equation. Cool.
Awesome.
That's what we got.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks, Jonah. Do we have any other questions? Excuse me, from the audience. Sorry. Any other questions from the audience?
I have a question.
Yeah, please.
How long, let's say like a Uber or a Postmate worker, how long do they typically work? Because I know some people that just do the job for maybe like a couple of months, but I also know some people like, and this is more on the rare side, I know some people that do it for like years. So like, how long is the average worker usually doing these type of jobs?
It's a good question. It really varies based on what you want, what you need, what your goals are, and I don't have an exact answer, but what I can tell you is there's populations of people that want to work for an hour a week. There's populations of people that are literally saving up for a vacation, and then they just disappear after 2 weeks. And then, like you said, you've seen people on there for months and months and months. And when they drift away, that's when you kind of need to reach out and say, hey, what's happening? Is there anything you can do? But it kind of does vary based on what your goals are. Maybe your startup just took off, and you can log off and jump on over there. So I would say it's there in a lot of ways. They're tough jobs. Driving around the city constantly is, it can be a challenge. It can be a grueling one. So I don't think years. I think it just depends on the person. But yeah, you're totally right that you're always combating some form of churn in one way or the other.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Diane asked a question. She said, "Hi, this is Diane. Does anyone have Auth0 integration experience with iOS? We have a client who can pay to get some help on a bug."
I can't answer that.
Well, if anybody has, she's her email address there. So, okay.
Cool.
Sounds good. All right. So perfect. Any other questions, comments, feedback?
Not spicy.
Smells spicy.
I think you're here. I'm going to mute Jill. I think that was on accident there. And great. All right. So if there are no other questions or no other feedback, thank you so much. Oh, Patrick, Jacoby, announcements for the guests about the surveys and things.
Oh, yes. So if you look in the chat, I just sent the link to the survey. If you fill out that survey and give some feedback, you'll be entered in to win a gift. So fill that out.
And beyond that, it really helps us to make the program better, right? Really helpful. We would really appreciate it. Sorry, I cut you off though, Jacoby. Sorry, Patrick. Oh my gosh.
You're good. I was finished up anyway. It's all good.
All right, wonderful. Well, Jonah, that was really useful. Thank you so much. Appreciate you coming, spending the time. Great slides, great presentation. And I know how busy you are. It's startup month, everybody. And so it's like crazy time right now in entrepreneurship world. So we appreciate it.
That's awesome. Thanks, Tanya. And I'd love to speak with anybody that thinks this would be relevant to what they're building. So find me online. I'm usually floating around on Wednesdays for the first hour at least. And then if that doesn't work, shoot me a note and we can find another time to connect.
You rock. Thank you, Jonah. Are you gonna be there this
Yeah,
Wednesday for
got
live
it.
hours?
I will be, yeah, the first hour will be popping in. I think I have some flexibility, so it depends on how many people are there.
Awesome. See you on Wednesday and
Oh, see you then.
bye everybody. See you at the next workshop. Take care. Have a good one.
Hey, everyone.